I was just waiting for my presentation, and I realized that before the nutrition and the discussion on nutrition, both feed and fodder have already been done. So I just need to combine both feed and fodder for dairy animal nutrition. So when I was given this topic, I was thinking that the time, half an hour, will be too short to discuss on a wide subject of dairy nutrition. So what I thought, I will take the commercial aspect also into dairy nutrition and combine both. So I have combined dairy nutrition on the topic of affordable milking. If we look into milk as such, and on the data that is present, milk is the highest amount of milk protein that is, or animal protein which is being produced in India at this point of time. And milk is one source which is taken across all the sections of the society. So as a society, if we have to overcome the protein malnutrition, milk is the number one target wherein we can meet the protein malnutrition of the nation. And if we'll go into the quality of milk, morning we were discussing about the quality and the food safety regulations going to come to India. And Maggie episode we have seen now. So the next maybe the dairy products or milk as such. So if I consider good quality of milk, it should have accepted range of milk components. It is produced from safe animals or feeding safe food to the animals. And then only we will have a milk or milk product which will be safe for human consumptions. These are some standard indicators which we feel that it is important to have in milk quality. The total solids, aflatoxin now we are not discussing, but in future, hopefully that the food safety regulations are going to put aflatoxin as part of quality parameters of milk. And somatic cell counts are also going to be part of procurement. So if we look from the production as a producer, farmers who are producing milk, producing quality milk is important. And also from the processor's point of view, if we want to go across the world, we need to produce a quality of milk that is acceptable by the total globe. And that is how quality milk production and receiving both is important to go beyond India. And to me, if I look as a nutritionist, improved quality of milk is equal to more profit to the farmer as a producer as well as the processor. So quality of milk can be produced when you have a balanced diet to the animals. And when the diet is balanced, it will help to give optimal nutrition to the animals at most economical cost and maintaining the optimum production. And it will reduce the cost of milk which is produced from the farm, and it reduces production and health issues in the farm. Now coming to the factors which influence both quality and composition of milk. Of course, we have discussed a lot about breed, but there is slight variations in the composition when it is related to a breed, and also the type of animal. Cow, buffalo, and goat, all milks are different in composition. Stage of lactation, the milk which is produced as soon as the cow calves or buffalo calves is not the same composition when the dry period is there. So the composition of milk and quality, if we relate composition with quality, it changes as the stage of lactation progresses. Feed and feeding practices. We have discussed about concentrate, we have discussed about fodder, but one important thing is the feeding practice. If you look into traditional feeding practice amongst the farmers, there is practice of feeding in the morning and in the evening. So, and if imagine an animal which is giving 20 liters of milk, having concentrate at the interval of 8 to 10 hours. So there is a lot of thing which is going in the stomach of the animal which affects the quality of milk. Climate is one factor which affects the composition as well as quality. health status of the animal, when the animal is mastitic or it is having some problem in the udder, the composition of the milk changes. Milking process and storage affects the later aspect of the quality of milk. And post-harvest handling, we have discussed these things in the morning, how post-harvest handling will deteriorate the quality of milk. Now, what makes the dairy animal nutrition unique? First is the animal itself, the ruminant, because it is easy to talk about simple stomach animal because the interactions or the way food is processed is a direct processing. But in ruminant, we know that it is designed for eating the fiber or digesting forage. So our friends can digest anything and give us milk in white color. And over the period, we have increased the production of the animals. And to maintain that production of animals, we need to maintain the concentrates or the nutrient concentration in the diet. So that is how the natural eating pattern of the animals have been changed when we have increased the level of milk production. So the ruminant stomach is habituated to digest fiber and also some amount of concentrate. It is the balance that we achieve between the fodder and the concentrate that will decide the composition of milk at the optimal level. Then, if we talk of dairy nutrition, it is unlike the breeds or the industries like poultry, wherein you feed the chicken for 45 days and it is slaughtered. In dairy nutrition, we have to manage the production as well as the life cycle of the animal. So an animal which is giving good amount of milk need to reproduce and give milk again and again, because the cost of culling of a cow is very high. And nutrition plays an important role in the farm economics, that is deciding the cost of production and breeding efficiency. Both are important in the farm economics. They are one of the important pillars in the farm economics, because if by any chance the cost of production goes up, the profitability from the farm, from milk as such, will come down. And if breeding efficiency is compromised, the animal will not come into the lactation cycle again. So both these are important. If we go into some data, I was going through some papers. If we look into the quantity of the milk which is produced, these are the factors which are on which the quantity of milk is dependent. That is, the breed, 50% of it is decided by the breed that is there at the farm. 30% is decided by the nutrition, and 20% it is decided on the management practices, biosecurity measures, and other factors. So nutrition plays an important part in deciding how much the animal will produce. Even if it is a quality animal and the nutrition is haywire, we will not get the optimum milk which is supposed to be produced. Now, how nutrition actually is important into the milk aspect? Okay, this is in a brief that the composition of milk is actually dependent on what we feed the animals. And if we look into the entire composition, there are two aspects in the milk, or two components in the milk, which are easily influenced by the nutrition which we give to the animal. One is fat, which is most easily influenced by what you feed to the animal. The other is milk protein. Leaving these two, the other parts of milk are very less changed or very less influence on the nutrition aspect of the animal. So I am just going into discussion on these two factors only. What factors shall we take care in the nutrition to maintain fat as well as milk protein? Because we all know that the price of milk ultimately is decided on a quadrilateral model of fat and SNF. So these two variants, we will just see the factors which are influencing them. If we look into milk fat, feeding can influence milk fat within the limits of the breed. That is, if we decide to feed the animal so much fat that it will continually increase the milk fat content, that is not going to happen. Because if you give more fat to cow, it is not going to give fat equivalent to buffalo in the milk. So it is within the breed and type of the animal. The type of feed or fiber content and its length in the diet is is important to decide the quantity of fat that is present that the animal will yield. Level and quantity of concentrate in the diet. If you increase the concentrate and reduce the fiber in the diet, we will be giving more nutrients or more fats, but the rumen physiology is such that the total effect will be reduction in fat. We will get increased quantity of milk, but we will reduce the percentage of fat on which the primary pricing is targeted at this point of time. Fodder and concentrate ratio, that is what I was discussing now. Fodder and concentrate ratio is important on or detrimental on the fat percentage in the farms. And level of fat and form of fat, what we include in the diet is important. Normally we see that it is talked about fat, a certain kind of fat to be present in the diet of the animal. But we have to realize that all the research which is done on feeding of certain type of fat is based on total mixed ration. And if the fat is maximum, we can go up to 7% fat in total mixed ration. And if we go beyond 7%, there are certain issues or problems of digestibility is there on TMR basis. So if you are planning to, in your farm, to increase the feeding of fat and free fat over 7% in your TMR, then you should go into protected forms of fat which are available in the market. Increased the green fodder in the diet, or you have reduced the particle size suddenly so that the animal is not able to digest it properly. If you have high grain in the diet, that is high yielding animals, normally we get fat around 3.2 to 3.5. That is because we are giving more amount of nutrient through the concentrate rather than forage. So in high yielding animals, if you want to go near 4, we need to include good quality forage to get a better fat percentage, taking care of the size of the particles. And here at the bottom that we see always in the slides, the negative effects of feeding free oil will be if there is more unsaturated fat fed to the animals' fat percentage will come down. So milk fat ultimately is dependent on level and form of dietary fat that we are feeding. Grain and fodder particle size, presence of effective fiber in the diet, because we know that our country, most of the farmers are dependent on dry fodder, which is having less effective fiber. So either technologies to increase the availability of effective fiber from the dry fodder, or inclusion of green fodder or some other technologies that will increase the effective fiber in the diet. And you all know that effective fiber, if it is more, it will lead to more rumination and less of digestive problems in the cattle. Well, coming to the recommendations to maintain milk fat, I have already discussed during the discussion of factors. If we take the fiber, which is number one criteria of reducing or element to reduce milk fat, then ration should contain, when I say ration, it is inclusive of all, it is not concentrate, because in our country when we discuss ration, immediately it comes concentrate. I am talking here ration in terms of total mixed ration. If we talk of the total mixed ration, then fiber content should be at least 18%. Below 18%, there will be a lot of problems, acidosis and other effects will be there. Minimum 25 to 28% of total dry matter should be in the form of neutral detergent fiber, and 75% of this fiber should come from the forage. Particle size of chaff fodder in thumb rule, if we take, it is 3/4 of the inch. It will vary from 3/4 to 1.5 inch particle size if you set the machine at 3/4 inch chaffing. At least 1/3 of the total fodder should come from dry fodder. Many times some SOS complaints come that suddenly yesterday my milk fat was 4 and within one day it has fallen down to 3. So 1% reduction in fat percentages within one day it happens. When we go into the cause analysis of such complaints, most of the times, I can say 90% of the time, the farmer has suddenly changed the dry fodder and introduced green fodder because of the thought that green fodder is having more nutrients, so better to feed more. When we increase green fodder, actually we are reducing the dry matter of the total ration and giving more water. So the fibers are more digested of the green fodder, and the animal suffers from diarrhea, and there is the volatile fatty acids in rumen are disbalanced, and you have reduction in fat. So the dry fodder should be 1/3 of the total fodder that we feed to the animal. Coming to fat, which is in the ration, maximum fat on TMR basis should be 7% of the dry matter. 1/3 of the fat above 4% should be supplemented in the form of protected fat. And in practical experience, what I have seen, even if you go up to 6% without protected fat, the animals doesn't have any issues of digestibility. High concentrate and grain rations, when we have got high yielding animals to which we want to maintain the milk yield, but we don't have good quality fodder, so we supplement the concentrate more. In those cases, high concentrate or grain rations, we can use buffers or metabolites of yeast to increase milk fat percentage and increase the number of feedings can be increased from twice a day to 3 times, or better is to go into the total mix ration kind of feeding management, which makes the feed available for more duration of time so that the animal can eat the feed as per the requirement or as it feels. Coming to milk protein content, milk protein is affected by the amount of major nutrients, that is energy and protein. It is more related to the balance of protein and energy both in the ration. Milk protein content is partly related to propionic acid. We all know that we increase propionic acid, the quantity of milk will increase. But to some extent, increase in propionic acid also leads to reduction in the milk protein percentage. So diets that are rich in propionic acid production in rumen increase milk protein and hence the SNF content. Milk protein is affected by the level and balance of degradable and undegradable fractions of protein in the ration. Balance of limiting amino acid also influences the milk protein, and fodder to concentrate ratio as we discussed earlier. Coming to recommendation to maintain milk protein content, decreasing fodder to concentrate ratio from 65 to 35 to 50 to 50 is seen in some papers to increase the milk protein content. That is, reducing the concentrate and increasing the fodder. It helps both to maintain milk fat as well as milk protein. Increasing intestinally available limiting amino acids, and that is balancing on the basis of methionine and lysine. Also, there is a lot work to be done in the area of balancing of methionine and lysine, because these are to be balanced at the intestinal level. Normally we see the balancing happening on the crude protein or the total ration level, not considering what will happen in the stomach of the animal or the intestine of the animal. So if there is some software which can predict intestinal availability of methionine and lysine, it is advised to go for balancing on intestinal level. Sometimes crude level balancing may not help to get the required benefit. Total protein can be reduced. Okay. And the second part is increasing undegradable component of protein in the ration. Thank you. I know it has been a long day, but you will have to bear with me for half an hour more, because I have got a second presentation to be made. So please. Okay. So as I was going through as I was going through this topic which was given to me, which was hydroponics and if it can be applied in southern India. I was doing some research on hydroponics and also talked to people who have implemented this scientific principle on a wider basis. That is, not only limiting to what we call the perception of branded machines or branded instrument, but adopting that scientific principle to make hydroponic fodder available on a community level. That is by reducing the cost of machine, by having some improvisation by which the farmer himself can design a hydroponic machine. So I had a discussion with such people also. So what I came to know, first I'll discuss about the challenges of the dairy industry. When I'm talking here dairy industry, I divide dairy industry into two parts. One is production industry, other is processing. So I'm talking about dairy production industry here. That is, one challenge is milk quality, variance and high cost of production is a challenge in the dairy farms at this point of time. Nutritionally, there is a challenge of maintaining the what I call consistency of nutrients in the fodder production in our country. One example is small land holdings versus feed land area. So there is competition between feed crops and food crops. So always when we look into the human psychology, food crops gets the first preference over the feed crop. So actually the area under the fodder crop production is coming down, and also the total land which is exposed to agriculture is also coming down by some margins. So this is a situation where farmer wants to grow fodder, but because of the food demand, his own food demands, he is not able to grow fodder. Knowledge gap about production cost. When I come across dairy farmers, there are most of the dairy farmers, when we talk of small and mid-sized dairy farmers, they are not aware about cost of production, what they are incurring or what is the cost of milk they are producing. So that awareness is not there. So there is what other people are doing, I will also do that kind of psychology is there. That is following the crowd. And traditional feeding practices, I discussed in the earlier presentation. There is traditional feeding practices, limit the feeding into morning and afternoon. I remember when I was kid, and at that time more people were there in village houses. So at that time the animals were fed thrice a day. So morning feeding, then afternoon water will be there, feed will be there, and in the evening also feed and water will be there. So at least the animals which were kept in the villages got 3 times feed and water in villages. But you know, villages now have changed. They have almost become cities. So there is dearth of manpower in villages also. So those animals also get twice a day feeding now. Raw materials, again there is rising cost of raw material. If we look into the concentrate, the feed segment is facing that problem. The same problem is faced by the farmer, wherein cost of growing fodder has gone up. So there is both sides, the escape route is not there. So if we talk of the challenge of dairy industry, if I have to find out one point, it is inconsistency of the ration mix and the nutrients. That affects the milk production, and it is the major cause of fluctuating milk production, both quantity as well as quality. Because whatever we do, we are not able to maintain the nutrient mix. It is easier for farmers in Europe to graze the animals on pasture, feed little bit of concentrate and get low cost of production of the milk. And climate is almost uniform. Fodder is the most frequent changing factor of the ration. And the change is more frequent in the green fodder. If we go into the practice what farmers are doing. And quality, the type of fodder also changes as per the season, because there is a season of leguminous fodder growth in the land, and there is a season for stem crops growing as a fodder. Quality, there is consistent variation. The factor which I discussed in the beginning of the presentation is that as the crop grows, the nutrient in the crop is actually changing. The mix which the farmer feeds, it continuously changes the concentrate to roughage ratio, and within the roughage, green to dry roughage ratio. So steady availability of quality green fodder will minimize these fluctuations or the inconsistency of nutrients which are there, and hence can reduce the cost of production, which was discussed in the previous presenters' slides. I'm going to talk about hydroponics, which is one solution which can be adopted by farmers on mass level. Because if we look into hydroponics at this point of time and look into the machines which are available, it drives some fear among the people who are going to adopt it. But if the cost factor is addressed and the principles of hydroponics are adopted by people, it can be a wonderful technology. So little bit, as I said, I was going through some research. So this picture is of Aztec tribe. It is in Mexico. Long back it was pushed by its fellow tribe who were more dominant, and they were taken off all the land. So Aztec tribe was forced to live on water, but what to eat? As we all know that necessity is the power of invention, is the need for invention. So Aztec people, they started growing food on the lake itself. And this is one of the first example of hydroponics which I got through. So these people were very smart. So they made trays, wooden trays, and fixed them at the bottom of the lake, had some gravel, and they grew their entire vegetables, fruits, and everything which they wanted over the lake. So they don't have land, but through water they are able to maintain their food security or their food feeding. So this is one example that triggered me to think that why cannot hydroponics be widely adopted by people. So if we want to know about hydroponics, it is a system in which plant is grown without soil, giving it necessary nutrients along with the controlled and climate and temperature and moisture. Why hydroponics? Because hydroponics can lead to succulent green fodder which is free from climatic condition. It can be grown in any type of climate. The fodder which is produced is uncontaminated and consistent fodder at the same stage of growth. So within 7 days you get the fodder which is fed to the animal, and every time you are feeding 7 days old fodder. So it meets or it beats the inconsistency factor from the fodder. So every 7 days you are getting a fodder which is of uniform nutritional value. Variations may be there, but it is hardly 3 to 4%, not more than that. It eliminates the changes in green fodder type. Based on the area or the location, you can choose which type of fodder you can grow, whether you want to grow barley, you want to grow maize, you want to grow oats, any kind of fodder which you want to grow. You can choose the fodder as per the need of the area, as per the availability of seed and all the factors which you want to consider. So the changes in the fodder type can be eliminated, which is the next factor of removing the inconsistency of nutrients. It can lead to increased yield and decrease the resource consumption. When I say resource consumption, it can decrease the land used to grow the same quantity of fodder and thereby reduce the cost of production. And hydroponics has a potential to be adopted by one individual farmer as an individual, or it can be adopted as a community. Many people can join and produce hydroponic fodder together, because in the initial slide I was discussing about marginal farmer, low land holding capacity. So many of those farmers can join together and produce hydroponic fodder, which will remove their issue of green fodder. And it can be customized and made cost effective. This is another reason why hydroponics, because within 7 days there is 6 to 8 times conversion of biomass. You start with 1 kg and within 7 days it becomes 6 to 8 kg of biomass, which is more important. And within 7 days on any crop you grow on land, you cannot achieve 6 to 8 times conversion of biomass. Hydroponic takes 7 days from germination to plant height of 20 to 30 centimeters. I am talking about maize fodder here in particular. The other fodder, the length can vary some degree. So what is the technology? Hydroponics crop is grown in controlled environment condition. The temperature is 15 to 32 degrees centigrade. Relative humidity in the chamber is 80 to 85, and we have controlled light which is passing through the chamber. The crop is grown in multi-layers. It takes 7 to 8 days in a continuous cycle. So as you can see, I don't know whether this picture is clear or not, but it is actually grown in the trays. So as per the number of the days, the trays keep on moving. 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. So that kind of trays keep on moving. And 7th or 8th day tray is taken out and it is fed to the animal. Depending on the size, each tray provides 10 to 12 kg of fresh fodder. And production of greens in this is a continuous process. So there is a 7 to 8 day cycle, continuous cycle is practiced. And depending on the farm size or inclusion of green fodder in the ration, you can actually plan how much you want to produce. And one major factor is that over the land crop is when you grow the crop in the land, you have to cut from the top. So actually the roots, which are also nutritious, is wasted, which is not done in green fodder, in hydroponic. So the fodder consists of grass along with the little amount of grain which is left and the roots. So this leads to better nutritional profile of the fodder. So advantage of hydroponics is it serves the purpose of good quality and consistent fodder supply and consistent supply of green fodder irrespective of climate changes. Long-term storage of green fodder is not required once the technology is mastered by the person who is adopting it on the farm. Water saving. So 2 to 5 liters of water is required to produce 1 kg of hydroponic fodder, as compared to 80 to 90 liters per day in the conventional system growing on the land. Water which is not used can be recycled and used again. So we are actually saving water by hydroponic technology. The other advantage is less land usage. So it requires roughly 1/12 of the space needed by conventional agriculture to grow same amount of fodder. About 480 kg of maize fodder can be produced in 7 days in 450 square feet of area. And to produce the same quantity of fodder, it is required 1 hectare of land, which will be required to produce 480 kg of the fodder. And that too minus the roots. Reduction in the growth time is the another advantage. Hydroponic plant takes 7 days from germination to plant height of 20 to 30 centimeters. Biomass conversion 6 to 8. And there is no post-harvest loss. Fodder can be planned and produced daily, as I was talking earlier. Okay. Actually, I am sufferer of what you call misfire of technology. So here the advantage is reduced labor requirement. So we have 2 to 3 hours per day of 2 people working to produce sufficient fodder of 480 kg fodder daily. But in order to get the same, you will have to employ a lot many laborers, lot much land to produce the same quantity of fodder. So it is cost saving on the labor. Fodder with enhanced nutritional value. Since the chart has not come, so I'll just give example of maize fodder. If you look into seed of maize, crude protein is 9%, and when we grow into fodder at the proper stage of harvesting, the protein in fodder is again 10% or 9 to 10%. But in hydroponic maize, the protein is 18 to 21%. And moisture, of course, the dry matter content of the fodder reduces because in seed it is 12% moisture. In fodder it is 70%, and in hydroponics it is 85% moisture is there. So the dry matter comes down. That is compensated by doubling the amount of crude protein which is there in the fodder. Fiber is 2.5% in seed, 28% in the fodder, and 16% in hydroponic fodder. But here the neutral detergent fiber or effective fiber is more as compared to the normal fodder crop. So we have fodder with enhanced nutritional value. Now, if it is so good about hydroponics and hydroponics is such a good technology, why it is not adopted by people across India? So there are, of course, challenges for use are there. The first limiting factor is the cost which is invested. The initial investment is high. That is for building the machine. But this investment, to my mind, is high when you are looking for a ready-made machine. If you are open to adopt the principles of hydroponics and build your own machine, or let people customize machine for you or for your community, the group of people I'm talking about, the cost of investment also comes down. It requires skilled or semi-skilled labor, but I have seen dairy farmers who are running their own hydroponic machines. So it requires a few days of practice, and we Indians are very talented to do the same work again and again. So people gain expertise once they are doing it. And it needs daily nutrition. It needs daily attention, because you need to see how the fodder is growing. So within 2 to 3 hours, you can do that. The important thing here is it requires soluble nutrients, and it should always be present in the medium. So there are testing mechanisms which will test the level of nutrients and which will help the farmer to again maintain the level of nutrient in the medium. And pests and disease, if it is mismanaged or some opening, some temperature variations are there, there may be pests, although hydroponics, if it is done properly, it is devoid of pests and diseases. Waterborne diseases, if people are not taking care of water which is being recycled, then there is a chance of waterborne diseases. But if it is done in proper practice, as per it is indicated or the principles indicate, it is a wonderful tool to give consistent nutrient to